This Dana Show podcast brought to you by Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Need service, maintenance, or a new HVAC system? Air Comfort Service works 24/7, keeping area homes and businesses comfortable. If you have a heating and cooling problem, visit aircomfortservice.com.
Dana Lash is off and running, generating the buzz.
All bets are off at this point.
So great to talk to you, Dana. You're my favorite.
Dana, you and I are blood brothers for the American dream.
Dana Lash, the conservative alternative. This is The Dana Show.
There were literally dozens of irregularities reported all across this state. And you know why? You read the stories. That's a corrupt state. Now it's our job to make sure that the sanctity of the vote is upheld. Before this race ends, we have to be absolutely certain that the Republican primary was won by Republican voters.
Well, last night sucked. The slap fight. You know, honestly, it is so difficult to take out an incumbent who for 4 decades, really, I mean, over 4 decades, has spent doing favors for people. Spent 4 decades doing favors for people. Sort of pulling his interests. Thad Cochran, it's not Thad Cochran, it's Thad Cochran's team. It's Thad Cochran's campaign. They're weakened at burning him. Because they got to have him stay in office because they still got checks. They still have checks coming, so he has to stay in office. That's what they fought for. They weren't fighting for the country. They were fighting for their paycheck. But no, last night sucked. Dan Bongino, though, won the primary in Maryland. I noticed that was mysteriously absent from the list of things that we learned about last night in the primaries. That was not on the list because it doesn't go with the media narrative, which, by the way, needs to make up its mind. Is the Tea Party dead? Is it alive? Is it grassroots? Because it's grassroots spirit. Is it here? Is it gone? Are people back to being apathetic? You can't judge that from one race, especially right after David Brat beat out Eric Cantor. Really? People are asking that question? They're trying so hard to use the Thad Cochran victory in Mississippi last night as a way to kind of steal the luster from beating the number 2 guy, the number 2 Republican in the House. Don't let them do that. That's what they're trying to do. Don't give them that victory. Don't give them that. Thad Cochran isn't the same influentially as Eric Cantor. So don't try to sit there and allow them to make this a tit for tat thing, because it's not. Good afternoon. I'm Dana Lash. This is the Dana Show. A lot of things to get into, but the primary Tuesday, runoff Tuesday in Mississippi. Yeah, I didn't like the results. I wasn't a big fan of it. There were so many, it ended bitterly. It was a very bitter runoff. Cochran won by 7,214 votes. McDaniel won't concede. So Cochran winning means that he won't have to go back to doing indecent things to animals. You all remember that soundbite? That's what that means. So McDaniels says that he's going to mount a legal challenge because of the voter irregularities, namely, he is targeting the dirty tricks that Cochran's campaign used to try to give him an edge, particularly the get out the vote efforts. Now, there's a lot of really curious stuff that happened, but one thing is for sure is that this Thad Cochran, he won the Delta, and he won a lot of predominantly black precincts as well. One of those is Jefferson County. It had 92% voter turnout. Of the 99% precincts, Cochran wound up with that 7,200 votes. That's quite a lot. And to assume that they're all invalid is presupposing that people only voted for Thad Cochran because they were scared of it. I mean, what he basically, make no mistake, what some Cochran supporters did was basically walk into black communities and shake a Klan hood in the middle of the street, saying, if you don't vote for Thad Cochran, well, have you seen some of these flyers that have been, I've had people sending them to me. Have you seen some of the flyers they're pretty crazy. Like, let me pull this one up. This one was, And I'm actually, when I fill in for Glenn Beck tonight, 5 Eastern, 4 Central, I'm going to go in because get into the weeds a little bit with who are the groups that were pushing these ads and what is their connection to Thad Cochran. There was one on Facebook, one that was posted on Facebook, and it said the Tea Party intends to prevent you from voting, and it's a Thad Cochran flyer. It says, if challenged, demand your right to vote. Don't let Tea Party representatives discourage you from voting in the Senate runoff on Tuesday, June 24th. We need to vote Thad Cochran on Tuesday. And it's paid for by All Citizens for Mississippi. It's interesting. It's a new PAC. Their founding paperwork was filed on May 30th. So the PAC that paid for this ad, it's interesting because they share an address and they have the same leadership as apparently a local church. This group apparently didn't even exist at the time that this ad was published. So I definitely do think that there is an investigation that should take place in terms of the campaigning because there were some dirty things that happened. Do I believe that Chris McDaniel won more votes than Thad Cochran? I don't believe it. I don't like Thad Cochran. I'm not quite sure he's living. Like I said, they're weakened at burying him. And yes, I absolutely reserve the right to mock the duration of time that someone has spent in the same Senate seat. This dude has been there for 11 trillion years. Hell yes, I'm going to mock that. This isn't show friends, it's show business. It's a business of the country. Yes, I'm going to mock it. Yes. No, I think that the proof is in the pudding, which ironically, or not ironically, coincidentally, is Thad Cochran's favorite food. But no, this is, I don't like Thad Cochran. We've had Chris McDaniel on the show. I've interviewed him on my show on The Blaze, talked to him quite a bit. It's difficult to take out an incumbent, especially one that's backed by the Haley Barbour machine. If you were to take Colonel Sanders, add him to Boss Hogg, you get Haley Barbour. Did you know that? Have you seen Haley Barbour, Kevin, who's back with us today?
Have you
seen Haley Barbour?
I have seen Haley Barbour, yes.
Am I right or
yes.
am I right?
I spent some time in Mississippi. I know what their people look like down there.
What, are you saying everybody down there looks like Haley Barbour?
No. I just know what he looks like because, people talked about him when I was down there. So, and you look things up, you get the internet.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, it's Colonel Sanders plus Boss Hogg equals Haley Barbour. I just found, it's kind of interesting to me. But no, the thing is that I think that the dirty tricks that were used by Cochran's campaign, and that's just one flyer. There are a ton of other flyers. They were already screaming about voter intimidation because True the Vote, the Senate Conservative Fund, and other grassroots groups were going there to monitor the polls because there were all of these stories about fraudulent registrations, et cetera, and Chris McDaniel was saying that, well, we won by the Democrat. What is this? Audio soundbite 3. Audio soundbite 3. Check this out.
To be very, very clear, there is nothing dangerous or extreme about wanting to balance a budget. There is nothing dangerous or extreme about defending the Constitution and the civil liberties therein. But there is something a bit strange. There is something a bit unusual about a Republican primary that's decided by liberal Democrats.
No, I don't disagree with that at all. But Mississippi is an open primary state. It's an open primary state. That's something people have to consider. So there's not going to be, I don't think that there's any legal ground on that particular area. We're going to talk more about this because I don't want you to feel dispirited. Please don't feel dispirited. And I know that people are going to try to make you feel that way. Please don't. I mean, seriously, Eric Cantor was just voted out of office. How can you feel dispirited? This was one race. One. Don't let people don't allow people to make this like the end all be all. Quick break.
This is The Dana Show.
Fast to take that test. Changes. Turn and face the strain. Changes.
Talk lines are open now at 866